able to go to work or?
Yeah, fortunately, even since the whole COVID situation began, we have not been forced to close our operation in Hong Kong at all. Whereas our offices in Singapore, you guys know, and Dubai, Switzerland, in America, at one point or another, the operation has had to close down. Fortunately, in Hong Kong, it has not gotten to that point. Recently, the cases the past 2 weeks have been increasing again here in Hong Kong. So we've had to reduce our working hours and really increase the staff rotation program in the office, just so we can all avoid going on the train during rush hour, things like that.
Then how do you like serve your customers then? I mean, because this is a pretty much a touch and feel business. People want to see their watches and all that. Right? So how's that working out?
Right. I mean, like any other place where you walk in, whether it's a restaurant or a store, we do take temperatures of everybody coming in to ensure safety as much as we can. And we are trying to limit as much as possible that for clients who do come to visit us, it is by appointment only. There are a few people who come in just to walk in, but it's right now, this past month, the minority. So the majority of people who are coming to visit do have an appointment, and we know for a fact they have not been traveling, and they've been doing their part to stay safe as well. So it's minimizes that risk as much as we can.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been seeing people, like meeting clients and all that. So business is still going on as usual.
Yeah, more or less. Fortunately, it has been quite strong. The main negative thing that we've experienced is a lot of my clients or our clients are based in the Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, Japan, so really outside of Hong Kong. So although they can still, send us deposits to hold watches, it's quite difficult to deliver watches to them. A lot of clients would rather come to pick up the watches in Hong Kong. Okay. And right now with the travel exclusions or travel bans, it's impossible. So that part of my business has been slowed down very significantly. But otherwise, the local Hong Kong clientele has been still running quite well.
Right. Okay, well, for those of you who've just joined us, welcome to another of our Crown Live Chats. Tonight, we are talking to Joshua Srolovitz. He is the sales director of WatchBox Asia, and we're really pleased to have you here with us tonight, Josh. Would you like to tell us maybe a bit about yourself and your company? What is WatchBox, to those of us who are not so familiar with the market, and what are your responsibilities in WatchBox?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. It's we're a huge fan of Crown Watch Blog and Crown Magazine, so it's an honor to be part of this with you. WatchBox is really a platform for buying, selling, and trading luxury watches. And going back towards the beginning, we were founded and kind of brought to life by Govberg Jewelers in America. And Govberg is an authorized retailer for watches in North America. We have several physical stores and boutiques around the country. And it's one of the oldest watch retailers in North America. So we've been in business since 1916. So really been at the forefront of, watch sales and the watch business in America for really longer than anybody in the States. Right. About 5 years ago, our pre-owned watch program, which originally was just offered to our existing clients who bought watches from us, then wanted to trade those watches back towards a new purchase, grew into really the general public wanting to sell their watches to us, and we could offer them liquidity for the watches that they possessed. And that kind of snowballed a step further into becoming them being able to trade their watches and using that value that was inherent in their pieces and apply it towards something that they saw on our website or in one of our stores. And then fast forward, I guess 3 more years, we opened up in Hong Kong, which was our first international office. And since then, now 3.5 years later, we have Singapore, Dubai, Switzerland. So it's been a really, really exciting few years.
Okay. I mean, before we get into more of the stuff about WatchBox, I just want to find out from you, because a lot of us who work in the watch business tend to be watch enthusiasts before we get into the business. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, when I first started, I was quite young, so enthusiasts might not have been the right word, but just really interested, I think is more appropriate. I got into watches when I was probably in middle school, about to go into high school. My father was into watches and by no means a serious collector, but that seed was planted in my mind. And then by the time I joined university, I started working at Govberg in the repair center, just in customer service part-time. And it was really just a summer gig to just help them answer phones, talk to clients, send them shipping labels to get the repairs in, ship the watches back to them once the repairs were completed. And a few months into my tenure doing that, the pre-owned business, which was just 2 people at that time, they were starting to get some traction and needed some assistance. So I went down to help them part-time as well. And I was just helping take pictures for the website or descriptions for the website, just basic tasks like that. And then within 6 months, I stopped going to the repair center altogether and spent all my time doing the pre-owned trading. It was just much more exciting, getting to handle the watches, talk to the clients. And it was much more fast-paced as well. So it was a very, very exciting place to be. And then within 5 years, that grew into a team of about 20 or so sales traders that we have. And 2 years after that, we opened Hong Kong. So we have a team of 16 here in Hong Kong now. And at that point, there was about 30 traders in Philadelphia as well. So it really became a big active team. Yeah.
But on a sorry, no.
You expanded into Singapore just last year, was it?
Yeah, Singapore was just over a year ago. We came over there, I think, just before November last year for the opening party. So it's quite a new operation for us.
Okay. So we might have seen you there then, but probably didn't recognize. But anyway, but on a personal level, right? When do you recall the first time you were actually taken in by a watch? Like, oh, okay, that's actually something that I can be interested in, or that could be something I could fall in love with.
Yeah, good question. Actually, it was a pocket watch, not a watch. And what it was is my mother had given my father for one of their anniversaries or a wedding present, I can't remember, a antique Breguet pocket watch. It's very, very simple, just a basic enamel dial, manual wind, of course, keyless.
Simple enamel dial. Right.
And I remember my dad showing me that watch for whatever reason when I was, again, in middle school, probably 7th or 8th grade, whatever age that is, and being so floored by the detail and the size and just the artistic quality that it possessed, yet being so simple. And of course, having a watch like that, my dad never wore it, so I never saw it before. I was really kind of taken by the classical nature of that piece. And when we talk about brands later, Breguet, for that reason, holds a very important part in my heart because of that. Yes.
Okay. Yep.
And then a less romantic note, one of the first watches I ever got was a Rolex Submariner, but from the local flea market. So even me saying that, but may or may not have been original. So yeah, we'll talk about it later.
But now, do you know how to tell the difference?
Of course, yeah, that's a big part of our responsibility here and what we train our staff to be able to educate our clients on things like that. Absolutely.
Awesome.
So when it comes to personal taste, right, what kind of watches do you like?
Myself, I prefer very traditional watches personally. I have a smaller wrist, so I don't wear larger watches. Yes, I wear smaller pieces myself, or the sand rather. So I'm normally wearing a 36 to 38, maybe 40 millimeter if I'm stretching watch. So for me, any watch that's within that realm, I'll definitely be drawn to. And within that realm, I do not really wear sports watches. I've had real Submariners in the past, and other sports Rolexes, and they just never got the same wrist time that a leather strap, classic piece, or like a Rolex Date-8, for example, would.
Okay. I must say though, the pocket watch was something that your dad gave to your mom, right?
Actually, my mother had gifted it to my father.
Okay.
So he still has that now. So I'm waiting for that one day.
Your mom has good taste, though. Breguet is something that it's a brand that not, you have to dig a bit deeper into watches before you find out about Breguet. People know Patek, people know Rolex and Piguet and all that, but Breguet is something that is, goes quite deep into the watchmaking traditions and history. So she must have been quite aware of what Breguet was about.
Yeah, she must have done a lot of research because, funny enough, even to this day, she really does not wear a watch, at least anything of much significance. So I'm not sure how she came to that.
Does she carry a pocket watch though?
No, she doesn't. I'd given her a watch as a holiday gift a couple of years ago, and she still hasn't worn it. So she's really not a watch person. I'm sure she just did her research and somehow came to that conclusion. I'll have to ask her. Yeah.
Okay, Josh, I got to ask you this, okay, because both of us, since we have skinny wrists, I find it really hard to find watches that look good on my wrist. I agree with you. For me, I'm a 36 to 38 as well. What do you recommend?
I mean, the first step, in the new watch market, when you look at brand new watches, the majority of the pieces available today, when you walk into a retailer, are going to be a much more contemporary size. And much more contemporary means, generally, in my experience, 38 millimeters or above. And the majority of the time, it's really 40 millimeters or above. Unless you're looking at a, really like a ladies' jewelry piece, for example, which is a bit more specific. So I really encourage my clients and myself when I look for a watch, I always go pre-owned or I always go vintage. Because at the end of the day, you have
because they're smaller, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're much smaller generally, and there's much more breadth in terms of the collection of watches you can have access to. Because really, it's decades and decades of watches that are now available for sale on the secondary market. So your selection is exponentially greater than that of in a boutique today.
Right,
I mean, lately there have been a lot of like 38, 39 watches also, like as a unisex kind of a watch, right? So I think reasonably sized watches are actually very nice and very nice to wear.
I agree, and I think we're starting to see the new watches coming out to start to come down in the sizes, because for many years you had the Patek Pilots, the Panerais of the world, things like this, where there were 44 to 46, 47 millimeters, and that was very common. And the trend, I think, is starting to go the other direction, fortunately. So we might see in a few years that 40 millimeter or sub 40 millimeter, even for a gentleman, to be more common than a 42 to 44, for example.
Before this chat, George, we asked you to give us some images of some pictures of watches that are of special significance to you. So maybe I'll just like to share that on screen right now. Just give me a minute. And maybe you just want to talk about some of these watches. Check this out.
Yeah, so for me, one of my favorite watch models as a whole is the Rolex Date 8, and I've collected many of them over the years, and I really, really love models from the 1980s, 1990s. They just have a certain flair, a certain style that you don't get with even the more contemporary Date 8s. So when I see a watch like this, there's many factors that appeal to me. Most importantly, it's 36 millimeters, so it's in that sweet spot for my wrist. Solid yellow gold, it's 1980 style, just screaming it. It's you gotta love it for what it is. It's audacious, but in the best way. When you get to the dial, I don't always love diamonds, actually, but the red vignette, these painted dials, Rolex hadn't done up until, I believe it was 2019, where they came out with the 2019 brown and blue dials. So between like the mid-1980s until then, there were none of these colored vignette dials. So when I see this, it's just super beautiful, super unique. There are not too many Date 8s on wrists as it is, but to see one in this condition with this dial really made my heart skip a beat. And I was quite lucky when I found this because it was at a Hong Kong Phillips auction. And it was at the end of the catalog, so I think everybody was quite tired. When I bid on it, I bid like $8,000 or $9,000 US, and then like there was nobody bidding against me, and the room got really quiet. I was like, oh shoot, like what am I missing? What happened? And then before I knew it, the Thomas Protzi, whomever did it, hammered the watch, and that was it. And I was like, damn it, like what just happened? So when I got the watch, which I still have today. It's totally new old stock, full set boxing papers. It was just a blessing in disguise, afterwards.
How long ago was this?
Fairly recently. It was about 2 years ago. I bought it in Hong Kong. Yeah.
Okay. And you went into the auction armed with knowledge of what to expect and what to look out for already. So when you saw something that you could pull the trigger on, you just went for it, I guess.
I had gone through the catalog beforehand, and I saw a few day dates that I was keen on, and this one really spoke out. So it was the first one to come up in that auction, so when I bid on it, and then literally nobody else counterbid or bid against me. And that really made me nervous because I thought there was an issue I wasn't aware of, or something like that. But there wasn't, and I won the watch. And like I said, it was just a blessing because it really was the condition that anybody would hope for at the end of the day.
And if you were to put this up for resale on the market, do you think you would have made some money on this?
Maybe. There are collectors who search for these, and the blue dial, the green dial, and the yellow vignettes as well. And generally on the market, they trade anywhere between $13,000 to $16,000 US. It just depends on condition, boxing papers, things like that. So even with the premium, I think I got it at a comfortable level. It was just a lucky purchase. Yeah. I've had some other not so lucky purchases as well. So it's
okay. Maybe we'll get to that later. Let me just move on to another one. It's another day.
Yeah, so
Chinese? Is that Chinese?
Yeah, it's a Chinese calendar. And when I first came to Hong Kong, the intention for myself in the company's eyes was to just come out here for about 6 to 8 months, open the office, get the business running, and then go back to Philadelphia. So when I came to Hong Kong during that time, I really fell in love with the city, the energy, and all that. So I decided I had to have a memento to take home with me to remind me of my time here. So there's a vintage Rolex dealer. He's an older gentleman right in central Hong Kong who I've since become very close with. And he had this watch in his display case. And after about 2 months, it was still there, so I decided I had to have it. So it's a reference 19018, which is the oyster quartz in yellow gold with the Chinese calendar. And for me, I just want to imagine back in the 80s who in Hong Kong bought that watch. So for me, it just might have a special story, it might not, but it's special to me for that reason. And the Chinese calendar is super cool.
Josh, can I ask you about the bracelet of that watch? Because you normally see a president bracelet on the date. So what bracelet is that?
Yeah, so this bracelet in that case shape, where it's a bit more angular or muscular, almost reminiscent of a royal oak, is specific to the oyster quartz and the oyster quartz only.
Right.
So although it is a 3-link bracelet, the structure and design is more of a brick style, whereas a traditional day-date president bracelet that we all know and love is a more rounded kind of roulette style form factor. Yeah.
Right. So this would be a definite sign of a vintage watch then.
Yeah, it's funny because it's by no means a limited edition, but it's one of the most limited produced pieces from the Rolex catalog. So weirdly, this watch was in the Rolex catalog for like 30 years. But over those 30 years, it was made in very limited numbers per year. So it's not a limited edition, so to speak, but by Rolex standards, it's quite uncommon.
Wow, okay. Let's do one more.
Yeah, so the Brigade tradition. This is one of the more recent purchases that I've made. It's actually the watch that I'm wearing tonight.
Wow.
For the reasons that I've mentioned just a few moments ago about Breguet, why it's special to me from a family's perspective. When I think about Breguet as a manufacturer by itself, I think of the pocket watches from the late 1780s through the early 1800s when Abraham Breguet himself was active in producing these pieces. For me, they're super romantic, super artistic, and represent the height of what the French engineering, French design was capable of before the revolution took place and things ultimately changed. So they have this romantic quality about them. And the tradition wristwatch, which is pictured here, in my mind, it would be the watch that Breguet himself might have designed or conceptualized and then ultimately built, if he were, with us today. So it's got a very classical, traditional gear shade dial at the top, which is cut by hand on an anti-glaive machine. And then the structure and movement construction of the drivetrain is very traditional, very simple, and it's very similar to what you may have found on an antique pocket watch from that era. So it has all these cool qualities going for it. And for me, it's 37 millimeters, very thin, and the side of the case is engraved with that coin, that very typical coin edge pattern. So it's got all of what Breguet is, what Breguet is about, in the perfect size and really cool design, in my opinion.
And it has a special emotional connection to you as well, I guess, because of how it started way back when for you, with your mom's watch to your dad, pocket watch.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly.
Yeah. I love how was it kind of a sandblasted finish on the bridges as well, and on the nameplate.
It's funny when the light catches it just right. It actually reminds me more of the frosted AP Royal Oak texture.
Right.
So it's a little bit different than that, but if you look at it very quickly, it does resemble that texture. It's really, really cool for that reason. Then also when you look at it from an angle, and you're looking at the construction of the balance wheel and the pinions beneath and above, it's super three-dimensional. So there's a lot of depth in the movement from all angles. So from an engineering perspective and a design perspective, even though it's really not so complicated, it looks super mechanical and super complicated, just from a design perspective. Yeah.
I think the tradition is always a really beautiful piece because there's so much to look at, and it just reminds you of all the technical innovations that Breguet himself came up with, which has contributed so much to the watch industry today.
Absolutely. And some of the higher end tradition pieces have a fusee, have a tourbillon, which he developed, and some other really fantastic complications. Right. For me, this one, of course, it's more attainable price wise, but it's a first generation tradition from about 2005, 2006. So it's the best size for my wrist. We sold not too long ago one of the fusee tourbillon pieces, and that was one of the most remarkable watches that I've had in my hand for a very long time. We become a bit desensitized because we see everything. When I saw that watch, I really stopped and was like, wow, this is very special. So this is something similar, more attainable for me. Yeah.
We got a comment from Tom who says that he needs some reading glasses to tell the time of Breguet. So
yeah, I don't I don't blame you. In lower light, it is, you have to look kind of closely when you want to tell the time, but it is more of an art piece, and I appreciate it for that reason. So it's not a sports watch legibility for sure.
Okay. So just moving on to the pre-owned business, the sphere that you are working in right now. In recent years, we've actually noticed that the pre-owned market, of course, have existed as long as watches have been bought and sold, right? Mm-hmm. But in recent years, there seems to be a move towards people recognizing it as a more legitimate market. With AP Jones or H. Moser, brands like that starting their own pre-owned programs. Mm-hmm. And then you have a large luxury conglomerate like Richemont actually acquiring a watch finder, right? So can you give us a sense of why this has happened, why it has evolved to this stage?
Yeah, I think there's a few factors. So the first thing to consider is the quantity of pieces that are on the market to begin with. So you look at the past, if you want to consider just vintage watches, so call it the past 60, 70 years, how many watches have been made per year, every year since that time? So you compound that number. So whatever, it's an incredibly large number of pieces that are on the market. And the value of the pieces has been estimated to be around 20 billion US dollars, and billion with a B. That's just the estimated value of watches that are on wrists or sitting in drawers, wherever that have been bought and sold. And then that doesn't include brand new watches. And Swiss watch exports every year is, several billion Swiss francs worth of watches. So that compounds. So the inevitability of people buying, selling, and trading at the end of the day watches that they own, it was bound to happen because there's an inherent liquidity with any watch, whether it's a Rolex or a Patek Philippe or an Omega. Every watch carries a certain inherent value. So even if you're not a watch collector and you have a Rolex watch and for whatever reason you need or want money, you can, sell that watch, get the cash. But remember, whoever is buying that watch from you is buying it with a purpose probably to resell. So that just snowballs and kind of builds into the industry that we have today. When it comes to brands, conglomerates, people like that getting involved in the industry, I believe that was inevitable, and it's done nothing but legitimize the pre-owned watch market. And why is that? You look at a brand like FP Journe or Moser, Hublot does it. Some of the Richemont brands are doing it as well. When collectors are so passionate about a manufacturer that they not only buy the watches brand new from the boutique, but also search and hunt and really make an effort to find the collectible watches from the past, that does nothing but support and solidify the brand equity for a certain manufacturer. So we look at FP Journe, which, for lack of a better term, 2 years ago, most people were not paying attention. And you look at it today, and people are literally fighting over every single watch that comes to auction. A subscription tourbillon just sold for $1.4 million USD, when the last one that it sold at market was, more than a third of that. Right. And why is that? Is because people are becoming more educated. Publications like yourself, whether they're print or online, help to educate people and grow that interest and desire. From a brand perspective, for them to recognize this is super smart, and I respect them for it. Brands that try to suggest that the pre-owned market doesn't matter, it's not significant, it's irrelevant, all this, and all they want to do is push their brand new product. Those are generally the brands that we see trade for more of a discount from the retail price on the secondary market. And it's not always the case, but it's quite common. Whereas brands like Journe, I know his production is quite low, but some of the Richemont brands, the more high-end ones, the special pieces trade at premiums to retail. And it's a factor of how the brands limit the production, limit the distribution, really control the flow of their products, really respect their products. That's, in my opinion, what it boils down to.
I mean, if I were working for a watch brand, and I would be pretty apprehensive about the pre-owned market myself, because if my watches are going to be sold on the pre-owned market for maybe 20-30% less 6 months to a year after the product is launched, then that doesn't reflect.
Isn't it like cannibalizing the sales of the new watches in that sense?
Right?
Yeah.
There are success stories also. So I would say that of course, I mean, the brands have their own concerns as well when it comes to the market, right?
I know whether it's authorized retailers around the world or boutiques themselves around the world, if the watches can be bought brand new from those sources and you can get a discount, the bigger the discount is a pretty solid indication as to how the secondary market value of that watch is going to look, whether it's 2 or 3 months after you purchase it, or if you decide to sell or trade it 5 years later. Yes.
So the bigger the discount, the less it'll be worth in the secondary market?
For lack of a better term.
To generalize it a bit.
So, yeah. It doesn't mean it's not a good watch, because even watches that can be had at discounts, I would buy myself. They're incredibly worthwhile watches that are, as solid and well made as they come. And for people who are not maybe serious collectors or traders in that sense, they just want a good watch that's going to last them forever. Why not? I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Tom is asking whether if it's worth visiting WatchBox in Hong Kong. I mean, obviously you're gonna say yes, George. And do you work there?
Yeah. So yeah, of course, I would always suggest anybody to come visit us. The WatchBox Hong Kong office is my baby. We opened that office about 3.5 years ago and located right in the heart of Central. Visit lifestyle living room on the 14th floor of a beautiful store. So when you come, really like, wow, this is a watch store. Like, is this an art gallery? What is this? It's a really cool, calm, no pressure environment. It's good fun just to come and talk watches, look at fun things, and have a good time. Yeah.
The thing about walking into a luxury retail store, right?
It's intimidating.
It is intimidating. Whatever you just said about no pressure and chill. Like a lot of retailers like to think that, but actually for people who would just want to come in to look at watches and not commit, there's a lot of pressure, man. Because you do want to have a few visits before you actually make a decision. So
yeah, absolutely. The point of our, what's the best way to say this? Our purpose. When I think about this personally, we train our staff. It's, although we do sell watches, of course, the idea behind WatchBox, and it's global, not just Hong Kong, is really not to be a transactional environment. It's more to be an educational environment where somebody can come and learn and ask questions, and they might come in and want to buy, watch X, whatever that might be, and then through asking questions, I might find that's not really the watch for them, and we can put them into the more appropriate piece. And it could be a cheaper watch; it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's building long-term relationships, not just me selling, a client one watch and then unfortunately I might not hear from them ever again. That really does not, that serves me no purpose. Doesn't benefit me to do that.
Derek asked applicable to AP as well. I'm not sure exactly what point we were talking about. Probably about the talk about the
resale value,
right?
Yeah, there's definitely we do a lot of AP business. So yes, that's a big part of our portfolio in terms of the watches we buy and sell. When it comes to value retention, there are some watches from AP, like the Jumbo, everybody knows it, the 15202, which trades at a crazy premium to retail, and it's a gorgeous watch. That being said, there are opportunities to buy other Audemars Piguet pieces at big discounts to the retail price. And it doesn't mean that these watches are any less well-made, or any less beautiful, or just not a hype piece, not that royal case. So unfortunately, nobody's paying attention. But the other side, the benefit of that, is that if that's a watch that you want, that you're looking for, you're going to get the deal of the century and have a watch that probably retail for more than an AP Jumbo. You're getting it at a fraction of the price. So how does that not, make sense, or how does that not feel good?
It sounds really great, but the gray market hasn't always had such a great reputation, right? And I don't know what do you think contributed to that?
Yeah, I think there's a few things to consider. So WatchBox is not a gray market dealer. When we talk about the three levels of the watch retail kind of hierarchy, the first section to consider is authorized dealers. So authorized dealers are going to be like Govberg, which is our company in America, or Hourglass in Singapore, where it's an authorized retailer. You walk into a beautiful multi-brand boutique where you can buy all the watches that come with a brand new warranty. If you have any issue, you can go back to them and have total peace of mind. Gray market is brand new watches being sold by an unauthorized seller. So what does that mean? It means from one way or another, a watch went from an authorized retailer's hands through a back door somewhere, or however it happened, and went to a third-party dealer. And that dealer is then selling the watch at a discount. Yes, in some cases you might get a better price depending on the watch. But the issue with that is that if the watch comes from a gray market retailer, the manufacturers do not always honor the manufacturer's warranty. Exactly.
Right.
So if, long story short, if you buy a watch from a gray market dealer rather, and within that 2 or 5 year warranty, depending on the watch, it breaks, needs to be repaired. If the retailer can trace, the factory can trace rather, that it came from a gray market dealer, they will not honor that. So you kind of lose that sense of recourse or the level of protection.
Right.
Pre-owned is the kind of the third layer of this, where it's generally selling watches that are coming from an end user. So an end user will sell the watch to me, and then we resell it to another client. And it could be a watch that's 30, 40 years old, or somebody who bought a watch from a boutique, and they really did not want that watch. They're buying it for the purpose of maintaining their status so they can get a different allocation in the future. And then 2 days later, they come and they sell it to me. So it could be a watch that really is, for conversation's sake, in brand new condition, but has been owned by an end user for whatever period of time.
You mentioned earlier about buying a secondhand watch that is kind of like when you send it back for servicing or repair, is kind of recognized by the manufacturer.
Yeah.
How does that WatchBox?
Yeah, that's a great question. So WatchBox, given our connection with Govberg, it's one company. Even though we do operate a bit separately, but it is at the end of the day one company. Being that Govberg is an authorized retailer for so many of the major brands, they're also an authorized service center. So in the past, for brands like JLC, we're an authorized retailer, so we sell them brand new. We're also an authorized service center. So that means if a client bought the watch from us, or if it's a client who bought a brand new JLC somewhere else, then within that 2 year warranty period at that time, needed to be serviced. Even if they sent that watch back to JLC directly, depending on JLC's capacity at their own service center, if they were overwhelmed, that watch might come to our service center in Philadelphia. And that means that our watchmakers are trained by each of the brands respectively. And most importantly, we get the parts direct from each respective brand. So if you're a JLC or your Rolex or your Patek Philippe, whatever it might be, needs replacement parts, you can be rest assured knowing that Patek parts are going in your Patek watch. We're not putting aftermarket parts in a high-end watch. So when you're spending $5,000 or $100,000 on a watch, all of these factors make it's something you must consider when servicing your watch, even after sales has been completed.
Okay, right. I just want to circle back to what we talked about earlier about WatchBox stemming from with WatchBox having roots in Goldberg as a business. So just to put things in context, Goldberg is a retailer in North America, right? Authorized retailer. WatchBox deals in pre-owned watches, right? And is it a subsidiary of Goldberg? It is.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, it is one family, one company on paper, or we do operate independently. So as you mentioned, Govberg is the authorized retailer. So for clients in in the States who are looking for a brand new watch from those brands, they would go to Govberg. For clients who are looking to trade pre-owned or buy pre-owned, anything like that, they would come through the WatchBox side of our business. And it really is meant to just be a separation of church and state when it comes to dealing with the brands and dealing with the pre-owned trading industry side of the business.
So my question will be, how do you actually separate that? Because you have, on the one hand, Goldberg, that is an authorized retailer for a few brands, Rolex and Patek and all of that. And at the same time, you have WatchBox that deals pre-owned for all these brands. So, and then there is a price that customers are paying in Goldberg for watches from these brands, and there's another price that they're paying for the pre-owned pieces. How does that work out for you guys?
Yeah, it's quite simple. So at the end of the day, what it boils down to is in America, we have dedicated teams and sales staff that work exclusively for the brand new authorized side of the business. So they are Govberg employees. So clients again in the States who are looking to buy brand new will be directed to them. So even if they get to WatchBox and they say, hey, I'm looking for, brand new, whatever watch, it's a, regional product, whatever it might be, we'll direct them to our team in the States. Then they will handle it. If they're looking to do pre-owned, based on their location, if they're in Singapore, we'll direct them to our Singapore office. If they're in the Middle East, we'll send them to our Dubai office, and we'll handle it that way, respectively.
Okay. We've got another quite tough question from Derek Ong. Let's see whether you can take that on. He's asking about AP again. It has got to do with resale value. So he asked that AP discount is low, but secondary market buy is even lower. So what have you got to say about this?
It's a very fair point, and it's something we talk about frequently with AP and other brands, with our clients. So AP as a manufacturer used to be present in many authorized dealers or multi-brand stores around the world for 20, 30 years. And over the course of that time, depending on the retailer, it was possible to get discounts on their watches. They've since kind of gone to a more vertical integration way of operating, which means that they have a boutique-only platform. So really, if you want to buy a brand new AP, you have to go direct to the AP boutique. And the AP boutique is going to discount 0 to just a couple % if you're the biggest client in the world to them. And that's across the board. That being said, on the secondary market there are pieces that command premiums and are more highly sought after than others. So again, for example, the easy I want to talk about is the AP Jumbo, the 15202, 39 millimeter blue dial Royal Oak. Even at the AP boutique, this watch is impossible to get. So I've heard stories of VVIP clients who've been buying from the boutique for 10 years, and they decide they want that watch, and they still have to buy 2 code 1159s and wait 3 years to get the AP Jumbo. When the watch is that difficult to get, the secondary market demand and therefore the pricing will reflect that. So the pricing is going to be much higher. When you can walk into the AP boutique and buy a beautiful Jules Audemars, which is fantastic, or code 1159, which I do like, or an AP Millenary, things like this were easily accessible to anybody. Okay. Those generally are not as highly sought after on the secondary market and may trade in many cases for a significant discount to the retail price.
Right. Okay, Josh.
I hope that answers.
We hope that answers your question, Derek. Okay, Josh, I'm going to ask you a question that I think many of our viewers and our readers actually want to know. So say you come into a bit of money and you want to buy a new watch, right? Do you go to the brand new route or do you buy pre-owned? And we're going to ask you to take off your WatchBox hat for a bit and respond to this question as a watch enthusiast.
Yeah, it's a good question. So taking off my WatchBox hat, I think the most important thing to do is to buy what you like, because even if you follow the things that people are like hyping up on Instagram, steel Rolexes, things like that, and it's a watch that you don't like, you're going to spend a ton of money and get something ultimately that doesn't make you smile and make you happy at the end of the day. And what's the point? So when I buy a watch, I think don't go above your budget. Buy something that when you look at it makes you smile, regardless of the brand, of the model, of what your friends or what people on Instagram might think or say about it. I don't think you have to spend, make about $1 million to get a good watch. I think you can buy an Oris and get an incredibly well-made entry-level timepiece. And there's nothing to laugh at with a watch like that.
Okay, so if we were to go down the pre-owned route, for example, what are some things that a buyer should have on his checklist?
Going from a pre-owned route, first thing to worry about is to buy from a trusted source, whether it's WatchBox or WatchBox equivalent. Make sure you're buying from somebody who guarantees the watches are authentic, 100% original. Even if the watch doesn't come with the box of papers, they may offer a warranty, so they stand behind their product. Do your research. Even for, if you're buying vintage, People do make mistakes. Dealers do make mistakes with vintage watches, and it's never intentional most of the time. So do your research, even for more modern pieces. Go in, ask questions, try on a bunch of different watches, and again, don't be afraid to ask stupid questions. There's no stupid questions.
Okay. So also at Crown, we always emphasize that watches are, when you want to buy watches, right? You don't. It's not advisable to look at buying something to sell it for, a higher price later. That shouldn't be the main aim. Watches are expensive stuff, and when you want to go in to get a watch, it should always be for your personal enjoyment.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting into watches, I think the first and most important thing should always be to buy for your personal enjoyment. Again, watches are a luxury. Nobody really needs a watch, let's be honest. So if you're going to spend the money and make the investment, buy something that really does make you happy. If you're buying for the intention of, buying it today for $100 and making it up and flipping it tomorrow for $200 or $150, I think it's going to become very desensitizing and not fun, and you're going to make mistakes and get very, I think, angry and upset with yourself. And yeah, I mean, it kind of de-romanticizes the product, right? So these watches, when you think about the watchmakers who are spending countless hours building these works of art, to just buy for the purpose of flipping, and I know we're a business, but we're not doing it for that reason. It's really to protect the integrity of these products, because there are too many people out there who are not respecting the watches. And myself and my staff, we're collectors. We really take it seriously, so we get very emotional, very attached, and take it too personally when it comes to some of these products.
But if even if you even if you go with the route of okay, you want to buy a watch because you just want to enjoy it for yourself, even then watches are the watches that we're talking about are not cheap, right?
Correct.
So people don't want to make wrong choices, right? I mean, you said yourself much earlier in the chat, you actually made some, you actually learned some lessons with some wrong purchases. But if I had a sum of money and I want to be absolutely safe with what I'm buying, are there any advice that you can give?
Yeah, so for me, the mistakes I've made, and I can give you an example, I tend to be, even to this day, a bit impulsive. So I'll see a watch, and it can be from any brand, various price points. I'll think, oh yeah, this is awesome, I need this. I put it on my wrist, and even if it doesn't fit well, this is cool, I have to have it, then I buy it. And I didn't do my research, or I didn't ask enough questions, or I didn't try it on enough times, really get a good feeling for it. And then I end up never wearing it. When it comes time to sell it or trade it, I end up losing money. And it happens to everybody. I've done it multiple times. For me, one of the more notable examples that comes to mind is I bought a PAM 574, which is I think it's the right reference number. It's a 42 millimeter radiometer 1940.
Which is going to be huge on your wrist.
Yes, it's not a big Panerai by Panerai standards, but for my wrist profile, it really doesn't make sense. So when I bought that watch, I was really in love with it. I bought a bunch of straps, and it was cool, easy to change and all that. I never wore it. And then again, I ended up selling it, even though I bought it relatively cheap. I think I lost 20-25% on what I bought it for. And I was kind of obviously not happy about that. And I've made other mistakes, but generally, when you buy one of the premier brands and it's a watch you're not looking to sell or trade, just do your research, ask a million questions. Salespeople are used to it. We're not going to be surprised that you're asking questions. So ask questions, don't rush. And just if you're not having a good feeling from the retailer or the dealer you're at, there's many other retailers and dealers to explore. So there's never a rush. That's the most important thing in my opinion.
I just want to ask you, right, Josh, as a salesperson, right, when you see customers coming in, right, you will know which customer is ready to pull the trigger and which is not.
You do a mental profile, do you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can tell fairly quickly what kind of watches the client might be looking for, and it could be sporty, dressy, higher price point, mid-range price point, it doesn't matter. And then you can also tell this person's a collector, they know what they're looking for. They ask a different, set of questions. Or if it's a person buying their first watch, or even somebody like a spouse buying a gift for their partner, those kind of transactions do take more time and more attention. At the end of the day, my purpose in life and my staff, we're there to help you along that process. So asking questions, going through that process is literally the reason we are there. So you're not going to offend us or, upset us by asking questions.
Top 3 questions that you always get asked, by people coming in, talking to you, and like you almost have to record the answers and just play back to them. What are the top 3 questions you get asked?
Can I get a discount on that?
Yeah, so I was going to say something along that line. So it's always, obviously, what's the best price? Give me more of a discount, this or that, which is fine. It's a common conversation. When it comes to Rolex's sports model Pateks in particular, we'll tell them like a Submariner, it's X price. The client will be like, oh, but in the store or on the website, it's, the retail price is actually much lower. Why is that? And we have to kind of explain, you can't walk to the store and buy it. It's really a supply that's reserved for VIP clients, unfortunately, just the way it is. And because of that lack of supply and the height of demand, secondary market value it trades at a premium. It's not me controlling that. I wish it was, but it's not. It's just the nature of the market. And there are some people who ask that question out of, it's very genuine, and they understand afterwards, oh, I get it, that makes sense. And there are people who know, and they're just trying to test us or catch us and see if they can get a good deal if we're not paying attention. So discounts, sports models, goes for AP Royalers, for Derek, and hot pieces. We get that a lot. Otherwise, people might just ask generally, I'm looking for a dress watch, or I'm looking for a sports watch. What do you suggest? And they give us their price point, their desired bracket where they're looking to spend. And then a lot of times we'll get younger ladies and gentlemen who are buying their first watch. Maybe they're graduating university, or their first job or first promotion, and they want to treat themselves to something. They want to say like, Josh, what is the first watch I need to buy? Something I can keep forever and always look back and have my possession and never get tired of, and maybe pass down in the future. And my easy answer to that question is a Rolex. And it's not really a sports Rolex, it's more Datejust, lady Datejust, something like that. That's what we call it, a beach to tux or beach to boardroom watch. You can wear it in the water, and you can wear it formally in a boardroom and everywhere in between. Perfectly durable, and you never have to worry about it or look down and make sure it's still working. It's always my go-to suggestion.
Okay. On that note, could you tell us, give us an idea what kind of watches are available at WatchBox?
Yeah, everything. Again, we're a bit fortunate that we see so many incredible things come across our desks every day. So it's everything from really the entry-level pieces, which are still fantastic. So things like Oris, Anonimo, moving up a step, Rolex, Omega, and then up to the ultra premium pieces. Most dealers or gray market, sellers focus only on the hottest, in-demand hype pieces, but we buy, sell, and trade everything. So when you go onto our website and you see a few thousand watches, those are watches that we own. So we've bought them outright from our clients. We've reconditioned them, make sure they're perfect, brand new straps, servicing and polishing if necessary, and then backed by a full warranty of 2 years if it's no longer under the manufacturer warranty. So you look at a watch like this. This is an AP Millinery. It's a 15350 reference, which I mentioned earlier. You can walk into an AP boutique almost anywhere and buy these at a discount. So people really don't, unfortunately, pay attention or give these much sleight of mind. And it's really unfortunate because this watch demonstrates the AP design prowess and ingenuity. So it's kind of an exploded modern design profile with the exposed semi-skeletonized balance wheel at the left, small seconds, some Côte de Genève and guilloche engraving there. It's really, it's a work of art, and nobody seems to care. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well because Duolima, this current collection of Duolima watches, I think, this design with a lot of integrity and a lot of sophistication, but yet at the same time it hasn't really taken off because their bread and butter would be the Royal Oaks and Royal Oak Offshore. So
absolutely,
it's a pity though the Duolima watches are not taking off as well as they should. Really, really underrated watches.
Yeah, you're right on it. I agree completely.
John, your favorite, right? You always talk about FP Jones.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that WatchBox is a huge advocate for FP Journe. We've been dealing in the brand on the pre-owned side of things for as long as I've been involved, so 7, 8, 9 years. We've been an authorized dealer in America for FP Journe as well for about 4 years now, I believe. So we're very bullish on the brand, have been supporting them and promoting them for a long time. And because of that, we're kind of the go-to source for all things Journe. So when we see them, we get very excited. It's still the brand. Doesn't matter what the watch is. It's guaranteed to make my heart skip a beat. And for me personally, FP Journe, regardless of all the watches I see on a yearly or weekly basis, FP Journe is my grail. That's one day what I hope to be able to have in my collection. So the one you see here on the screen that's a watch we just got into Hong Kong about a week ago, and it's the Octa Perpetuelle. So it looks like the Calendrier, but if you look at 8 o'clock, there's a little bit of a kind of like a dimple or a knob, and that's really a cluster for the month indication. So this watch is a perpetual calendar, 99-piece edition. It was made for the Tokyo boutique. And weirdly, it's in titanium and rose gold. And there's very few Journe pieces that were produced in that material profile. 40 millimeters. It's got the rose gold, solid 80-carat rose gold movement construction. There's nothing to dislike about that watch. And the color is just gorgeous. Yeah, so this is kind of among the top level of the pieces that we've done recently. This is a Patek 5216 in platinum. When you think about Patek and what they're capable of, it's grand complications and it's minute repeaters. Their minute repeaters are the best in the world. The sound is absolutely pure. There's zero dissonance, and the sound resonates incredibly well. It's very loud, and the sound carries. So this watch is it's a minute repeater with a retrograde perpetual calendar, and for good measure, they've thrown in a tourbillon in there as well. So this is really the culmination of what Patek is capable of. And yes, there are more complicated watches like the Sky Moon or things like that. But this, for me, like if you didn't know better, this could be from the 1940s, and it would be easily as wearable then as it is now. It's stunningly beautiful, and we see maybe 1 or 2 per year if we're lucky.
Right. Derek is really active on this, and he's asking a tough question for you: VC or Lange?
That's a very dangerous question, and for reasons in WatchBox, we have some of our guys in the company are hugely passionate, or they lean one way or the other very heavily.
Before you answer, I'm Team Lange. Let's just put it out there, right? So
yeah, I think I might agree with you, and the reason being, the one Lange watch that I saw recently, which I still haven't forgotten about, I'm still thinking about late at night, was a 36 millimeter Lange one with a mother of pearl dial. I really love colors. I don't like black dials or plain dials as much. I like color, whether it's mother of pearl or colored enamel or painted. And for me, that watch in that size and the iconic Lange one, case and movement was awesome. So for that reason, I probably will lean towards Lange. and we talk about finishing, for most of their normal production pieces, the finishing is, as good as money can buy. And everybody likes the 39 millimeter data graph. It's, even despite the size, I would wear it any day of the week.
Yeah, it's just the size, right? There's a tiny problem with the size.
A bit thick, but you turn it all over, look at the back, and all is forgiven, I think. Yeah. But don't get me wrong, VC makes some incredible watches. I love the 1921 drivers, some of the basic patrimonies, or the Cornavash Chrono. Other watches are nothing to laugh at either. Really beautiful.
Okay, let's just get through the list of WatchBox's offerings right now. And right now we have a Grand Seiko.
Yeah, so Grand Seiko is another brand like Jorin that we're hugely passionate about. We've been a retailer for them for 4 or 5 years. I've done many trainings with the factory. I've met the family that controls Grand Seiko corporate. When you talk about finishing, attention to detail, and all of that, you're talking about second to none attention to detail. So the watches are feature black polishing or Zaratsu finishing. The dials have that Kirazuri blade finishing, which this one has in that blue snowflake profile. There's nothing like these. No other brand does finishing like this. The mirror polishing on the case is so pure and so clear. And the detail and depth and texture on the dial is done by hand and unparalleled. I've seen really few other manufacturers, if any, that offer this level of artistic craft, especially at this price point. So this is the SBGA 387. It was a North America exclusive, and clients here in Asia, especially, they fight for these when we get them in. The color is awesome. Spring drive movement, stainless steel, but very lightweight. It's fantastic.
I know for a fact that Grand Seikos have been, getting quite expensive over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So, would it still be a good time to buy? Would it be as value for money as it was maybe like 5 or 8 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, before you could buy pre-owned watches that were special editions very cheap because the market at the time wasn't really hungry for this brand. In the past few years, the market has gotten extremely strong for Grand Seiko, and the collectors are very passionate. The benefit of that, it means when you buy a Grand Seiko's brand new, the value retention is super strong. And even on the pre-owned market, they retain the value very, very well, especially for the pre-owned pieces. So if you're buying a piece pre-owned and you want to trade it in the future, it's a very, very safe watch to consider, especially for a first watch. Given the price point, highly recommend.
Okay.
Pepsi.
Yeah. We couldn't talk without mentioning a Rolex. This watch is very cool, and it's a bit of a stealth piece. This is, of course, the Pepsi, and it's stealth for two reasons. Most people will recognize this as in white gold. For somebody who doesn't know, if you're just on the street, it looks like stainless steel. Most people won't know that's a $40,000+ US dollar watch on your wrist, which is the beauty of it. It's super heavy, super just balanced on the wrist and very, very strong feeling, very powerful feeling. But it takes it a step further, and then it has the blue dial, which I believe was made for about a year, and we never see them. This watch I do not have in stock at the moment. I had it about 6 months ago, and that was the first one I had in about a year. I have not seen one since. So super rare, even by Rolex standards. And that blue dial is very subtle, but profoundly beautiful. It's really, really fantastic.
Yeah, almost impossible to get brand new though.
Yeah, this is another watch where you walk into the boutique and there's zero chance you're going to get one. I can all but guarantee you're not going to get one. And for that reason, of course, I would buy it myself. It's a disadvantage for me as well as a buyer.
Okay.
But that's another reason why on the secondary market it's going to be trading at.
Yeah, I do.
Premium to retail. Prior
to this check, the retail price for that in Singapore is about $51,480 $4. and on WatchBox.
For which one? For the Pepsi.
This one, yeah.
With the blue dial.
Yeah, and his on WatchBox is 63,900 plus.
Yeah. It's funny.
That brings us back to the question that some people have, right? Why it's more expensive on WatchBox.
Yeah, one of the factors that I didn't mention before is replaceability. So if it's a watch that cannot easily be replaced, that's another factor that will determine the price. So even if it's a current piece like this Rolex, even we as one of the largest dealers in the world, I can't go out and replace this watch easily. Yes, give me a few days, I can probably find one. A few weeks rather, I'll probably find one if I'm lucky. But chances are it's going to be even more expensive next time I try to go find it. So it's a watch that's not easily replaceable. The same thing with FP Journes. When a special FP Journe sells, most of them, like the one on the screen here, I can count on one hand how many of these have been produced. So figure there's 5 to 8 of these that were made, and most are in the hands of passionate collectors. So if one surfaces, we get it, then we sell it to another passionate collector. That collector is very unlikely to sell the watch anytime soon. So the market on these is smaller and smaller every time one sells. So a watch like this, I can almost say it's impossible to replace within the moderate future, if not long time future. This watch is a 40 millimeter Resonance 2 with an absolutely outrageously gorgeous mother of pearl dial. This is actually black mother of pearl. Every mother of pearl, as we know, is different. This one happens to be very rich in color. There's a lot of pinks, purples, blue and green almost. We had one of these. It was the first one I've ever seen. I've never seen another one. This was 2 or 3 years ago. Resonance is arguably the hottest watch in the Journe portfolio. And Resonance models with special dials, brass movements, or 38 case sizes are absolutely the hottest thing in the watch world right now, and for a good reason. It's a highly complicated watch. Can't replace it. It's drop dead beautiful to look at. It has every single factor going for it that you can want as a watch collector.
Okay, let me see what else you have on the list. Okay.
Sure. So Hublot, Big Bang Unico. I love Hublot watches. I think they get a very bad rep in the market and in Instagram and just in society. They make, especially these Unico movements, they make some of the most durable, well-made in-house movements that money can buy. Vertical, clutch chrono in this movement. It's Patek. Patek does that kind of chrono movement as well, and you're getting that in a Hublot for a ridiculous price. What I love about this one in particular, it's so ridiculous looking, but it's meant to be. It's not trying to be anything other than what it is. The whole entire case construction is made out of sapphire. When you look at this watch, I think the retail is approximately $60,000 US, something in that range. Let's pretend that said Richard Mille on the dial. How much would it cost? $1 million US, 800K US. So when you look at what you're getting for this watch as a Hublot, which retails for about 60,000 US, you could probably get it 40, 50,000 US. Like, how is that not like something that people are talking about? And this watch does come in other colors, other case sizes. There's a clear sapphire, there's a yellow sapphire. Of course, there's a rainbow bezel, which is pretty fun. Hublot makes great watches, exceptional value for money on the pre-owned market. So if you buy them as pre-owned, it's an exceptional value for money.
A lot of people are hating on Hublot, though. I mean, not a lot, but there is a faction of people that hate on Hublot. I just want to find out from you, what are your thoughts on that, and why is that so?
I think Hublot has a bad rep historically because for many years, even I think to this day, you can get discounts on them very easily brand new. So that kind of puts people off. The main reason I think is that they make so many limited editions, so many weird things. probably along the way somewhere over the past 20 years lost their way.
Right.
But the past 5 years, Hublot is making an incredible comeback. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 5 to 10 years, Hublot is the next thing that we're talking about and fighting over to buy in the market. I really think they have the opportunity to get back to that level.
Okay. Okay, I just have one more watch to bring up. Just give me a minute. The last one that you would like to talk about, maybe. The BBQ?
Yeah, I mean, super gorgeous. Debethune is one of those brands like F. Pigeon or Carrie Voutelaine and Laurent Ferrier, Roger Smith. It's independent in every way. They make, I believe it's around 500 watches per year, if that. Super exclusive. And I'm starting to hear rumblings on the market about people asking questions, starting to snatch up these earlier generation Debethune watches. It's the same kind of activity that we saw when it came to F. Pigeon a year ago, in terms of what people are asking questions about and looking for. And I really do feel that this brand, you know, in the near future could have that same trajectory. So this is the DB1, I believe. It's a 42 millimeter rose gold mono pusher chrono. Guilloche dial, Breguet hands, Roman numerals. What more do you want? And it's a watch that, if you're a collector or somebody who's just looking for a high-end dress piece, I guarantee it's something that nobody else in your office is going to have.
You do have quite a niche independent brands in WatchBox.
Yeah, we do. It's historically something that we haven't focused on too heavily, but we're starting to pay more attention. And Debethune, Journe, Laurent Ferrier, these brands are immensely beautiful, and clients are, again, very passionate, and they're just very fun to talk about. And when we see them in person, they're unlike anything else that we see on a day-to-day basis. So they're special. That's really what it is.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Josh, tonight. It was really great learning more about WatchBox, what you do, and as well as the pieces that you have available. So really, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, I really appreciate the invitation. It's always great to be a part of any activities with you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh. For those of you who have tuned in and left your comments, we appreciate all your comments, and we will get back to some of the answers maybe in due time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much, and good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Appreciate it.